let's just jump straight into the comparisons. I'm not going to talk here at the beginning for those of you who click just wanting to see the differences. So I'll do my analysis at the end once this is over. Okay, so I watched this trailer this morning, and I've kind of been curious the entire time since they announced this back at E3, the PS4 remake of Shadow of the Colossus. My first thought, of course, watching it was, holy crap, like they're remaking Shadow of the Colossus. But I saw a trailer later on where the animations appeared to be so similar that they didn't just seem similar. They seemed like they were exactly the same. And maybe that's the case. But that actually led me to question, okay, is this a remake then? Or have they just done a really heavy retexture and maybe put the game into a new engine so they could have a current gen lighting system? But it's more or less just a very high fidelity remaster. So that's why I wanted to make this comparison video, was to really look at the differences between the two. And now it's very, very clear to me that this is a remake. They have remodeled tons of stuff, especially in the environment. And so I want to kind of point some of those things out, but I'm sure you noticed as you were watching the comparisons. But I mean, right off the bat, you look at the background image here, and we'll go ahead and turn off the top layer. Like, the background is completely different. Completely different. They've got kind of these sharp, craggy mountains now that sort of like jut out, you know, in points out from the earth. And in the original game, the background was not even remotely like that. So they have completely changed the environment here during this opening intro section of the game. And you get a couple of other really good shots of that too. As the eagle dives here into the canyon, you'll notice they've added this waterfall as well. Let me put it up here. This waterfall was added for this version. Was not there in the original. Pull that back out. Turn this back on. I mean, just it's so different, man. It's crazy. Flies past him. Now, the reason why I was curious in the first place, though, I mean, when I'm not doing a direct, you know, comparison back and forth. First of all, one major difference here is that they're using a different lens on the camera. In the original game, first of all, they had a super wide aspect ratio, but also they had a longer focal length on the camera, the virtual camera that they're using. So he appears to be larger in the frame versus here. They're using a wider angle lens on this. So that's one difference. But aside from that, the animation's not the same on the bird. But you look at the way that I guess I was actually different. It was a little bit different there. He sort of reacts a little bit more to the bird here. He sort of like, you know, recoils a bit, and I don't think he did that in the original. He looked at it, but he didn't kind of recoil like that. So that was an added animation, actually. But it is amazing, especially on this shot where the horse sort of like rears up to make this jump, how absolutely perfectly they matched this. Like, here's what I could do. Let me bring the opacity down on the top image. Let's keep the layer on. Bring the opacity down so you can watch them sort of side by side, the way they move. Actually, let me scale this up a little bit too so that it like matches the same size in the frame. Okay. Hopefully, maybe 25 is too much. Let's try like 35. Maybe a 50. Just so that you can see how closely this animation matches. You can sort of see a ghost of it over the top. I mean, that is literally almost identical. They have matched that perfectly if they were reanimating that. I don't know if they did or not, but if they did reanimate that, they have matched it perfectly. Otherwise, they're maybe reusing animations from before, and that was the reason why I had some confusion, you know, in the past about, is this actually a remake? Because these animations, I mean, they felt like they were exactly the same. And at least for this part right here, this jump, it's definitely true. Like, that matches so perfectly. So, very interesting. But, like I pointed out here, when the bird flew past him, they have at least added little touches to the animation. See, now we can see whether this bird matches. It's pretty close. It's not exactly the same. Well, there is a little different. But the way he recoiled, you see the difference in the character there? So he flies by, and he really like brings his arm up and recoils from that, versus the original where he didn't do that. So they have at least added little touches like that. Okay, let's move forward here a little bit. Here's, oh, actually that shot is a good example too. So let's bring this back up to 100% opacity, and you see the difference in the background between here and here. Just like, wow. 100% different. Everything in the environment is different. The entire landscape model, or I should say models of everything, is 100% changed. So that's definitely not a retexture. That's pretty much confirmed. All right, let's move forward here a little bit. Kind of same thing in this forested area. You know, that rock, the trees, all completely different. All completely new, remade. They have this shot of the moon with the god rays coming down. In the original game, they didn't quite look like that. The moon is very exaggerated, I'll call it. Very large. Sort of looks more fantastical, I guess, the way that they're showing the moon and the moon lighting on everything here, versus the original game, which went for a little bit more of a realistic look, I feel. But yeah, so when the moon is kind of coming through the trees in this version, it's sort of exaggerated, accentuated, maybe you could call it, versus the original game. And then this little pond here. Yeah, I mean, just wow, night and day. And the trees are all different. You know, obviously they have grass in there now rather than just like a grassy texture on the ground, but I mean all the foliage, all the rocks, I mean everything has been totally redone. 100%. Rain shot here. Let's go back a little bit. This shot really shows off all the detail that they've added. The water there that the drops are falling into, the water coming off of the little alcove that he's underneath. You can kind of see it falling there in the front. The original game, they didn't have that. I mean, yeah. They've done such a good job at matching the animation and the camera moves and even the camera angles. Obviously, I've scaled this one up. If we go back to 100, whoops, actually, that's not 150 is what I meant. So that's actually what it looks like. But if I were to scale it up back here again and sort of like match the older game, I mean, it's super close, super close. And they have definitely remodeled him as well. You can tell, like on his cape thing or whatever that thing's called, his hair. Yeah, this is not not a retexturing. This is 100% everything you're seeing has been recreated. I mean, look at the difference there. But despite that, they have matched the camera. They've matched the position of Wander within the frame, as long as I've, of course, scaled it up. They're using a wider angle lens, like I was saying earlier, but I mean, they've come so close to matching the exact same camera movements and animations, but they've totally recreated everything. And here's a good example too. You look at the difference on the castle structure there. It's not really a castle. I don't know what else to call it. The architecture in the background. They've actually got individual steps here now. I know it's annoying that I have to. Maybe I can actually do this. Make this a little bigger. There we go. And then I'll come up here. Yeah, so there we go. I mean, all like the pillars are different, the stairs are different. They've got like cobblestone all added in there, all the foliage. I mean, just wow, a humongous difference. And when they look up towards like the spires here too, those have also been changed. Well, the new version has spires. The old one did not. Let me just look at that. That's been 100% changed. That's not the same design even. You look at like these sort of squares in here, and I mean it's just totally changed in this version. And then this shot too, you look at all the foliage they changed. The trees are different. They've added tons of grass. Like we said earlier, this entire structure has been changed. The pillars are different. Everything's different. But they've matched it so close with his position. The horse's position in animation. It's amazing. And that's what gave me that sense, like I've been saying, that maybe this is a remaster, but it's definitely not. Okay, in here you can see it too in the walls. Like, wow. Wow. So flat, and then you got, wow, just look at that. Look at all that detail they've added. Amazing. And then you kind of come out here into the open. The landscape, again, totally changed. You see the difference in the, these, like, cliff faces here. Totally different. They've got this big hole sort of here in the desert. This sort of like a gaping chasm that they did not have before. The castle structure itself seems to at least have the same design to it from the original. But I mean, the entire landscape has changed. The entire landscape. Wow. Now, I assume that the Colossi will all be located in the same areas, but just like the way the mountains are modeled, all that stuff is going to be different. But the general landscape, in terms of like, you know, where things are at, I would imagine would be exactly the same. In any case, this puts to bed my suspicion that this is a remaster. It is definitely not. They have remade everything you see in the game. It has all been remade, but they have done a masterful job of animating to make it feel like the original. So this is what I would call a remake done right, where they've modernized it. They've made it look really great. They've added tons of detail, but the game still looks and feels, well, it looks in terms of the way like all the camera moves, right? Like they've retained all of that stuff. It feels exactly like the original, but it's just been brought into the modern age. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and we'll see you again on Wednesday for our podcast. Peace out.